we've got the great pleasure of spreading our products to athletes all over the world. One of the top athletes in the world, 5-time NBA All-Star, man who played on the Dream Team. I mean, that was the original Dream Team with Jordan, Charles Barkley, Larry Bird. And he hails from my hometown, Brooklyn, New York. Now, I'm going to tell you, if he tells you that I didn't take him to the hole once or twice, he's lying, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Chris Mullin.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Chris. Now, Chris, I was telling these guys when I grew up in Brooklyn, you know, we grew up pretty close to each other, and I was delivering Chinese food in Brooklyn, and I was being chased all the time by guys trying to, you know, get my money and get the Chinese food. Now, I know you grew up in Brooklyn, but you probably had a little different experience on the streets there playing hoops.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Yes, growing up down Flatbush Avenue, not too far from you, Joe. I delivered the Daily News as a kid, and Brooklyn was a great place to grow up. I loved it. Obviously, basketball was a huge part of the city. It's a huge part of what everyone does there, and the biggest part was gaining acceptance and respect. That was a huge part of, that's really how you gained your confidence and how you grew. It wasn't through commercials and you know, being on TV. You had to do it daily, on a daily basis. So you'd start playing in your own neighborhood, and you'd venture out to Queens, out to Manhattan, up to Harlem, through the Bronx, and as you gain respect, they let you come there.
Yeah.
When I first started going up to Harlem, I would go on the train and would cover up a little bit because I didn't exactly fit in there.
Really? You're kidding.
Yep. But
Chris is almost as light as my dad, you know. And back in those days when we were playing hoops in the playgrounds, you know, it was kind of dominated by the ball handlers, right?
I had to find a way to make it, had to fit in. But as I performed, it was a place I started hanging out and being accepted. It built my confidence, developed great relationships. More importantly, developed a reputation of not being afraid to go compete and want to build my own reputation and build my own career. So that was the start of something that developed into a long career. The other part, which I'm finding out now at 47, all those games I played were on concrete.
Yeah.
Preferably so too. If we had a choice to play in the park or in the gym, we'd rather play in the park. It was more fun. It was outside. It's where the people were watching. But now, at 47, my knee joints and my hip joints, I think they wish I would have been on the hardwood floor a little bit more as a youngster.
Now, when you got to Xaverian High School, when was it that you realized that you were going to be, you know, a star in high school?
Probably not to my junior year. As a sophomore in high school, I was 5'10", and actually was probably the second smallest on the team. The summer between my sophomore and junior year, I grew like 6-7 inches. And when I came back to play varsity ball, I was about 6'4", 6'5". Fortunately enough, had the abilities and the skill of a smaller player, and I had grown a lot. So I was lucky that I grew late. And so as a junior, my high school coach started put a little seed in my head. He would compare me to some players who were in the NBA. So, well, I think you have the size now, you have the ability, you should start thinking a little bigger. I thought it was a little far-fetched, but it was definitely a dream that was out there for me. And then once my senior year came, again, it's about knocking down barriers. I was invited to the McDonald's All-American High School game, which again was kind of overwhelming to me. Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan as high school players were in that game. Already very highly publicized. I really wasn't that publicized nationally.
Now, we knew who you were in New York, I'll tell you
New
that.
York, nationally, yeah. In the neighborhood, I had a pretty good reputation, but nationally, not really. And so I went to that game and played pretty well. Once again, my confidence grew. And in my own mind, which is the most important thing, in your own mind and body, that I can do this. I can compete with these incredible athletes. So it was like another barrier that got knocked down for me.
Well, what type of, tell us about your family growing up in Brooklyn. Did you come from a big family? Did they have a lot of support for you through the high school years, through getting out there and on the playgrounds?
Once again, in my mind, a dream upbringing. I was one of 5 children, middle child, so it's actually helped me in negotiating. To being that middle child, you kind of keep the 2 older ones happy, and you got to take care of the 2 younger ones. But my parents, they were just blessed all of us. We always had love, support. My mom and dad came to all our games, how I don't know. And just, throughout the city, really, my parents were known because they never missed a game. My dad was pretty tough. My dad was a passionate man. He was a U.S. Customs inspector at Kennedy Airport for 30 years. So he worked hard, and he loved to come watch his kids play. He'd get to the game right from the airport, kind of rushed and kind of stressed out, beating the traffic in New York. So he would give the refs an earful. If I wasn't playing every minute of every game, he'd give my coach an earful. And if the other team was playing a little dirty, he'd give the opposing coach an earful. So everybody got a little piece from my dad. But again, incredible support. And at the basis of my upbringing, it was to enjoy what you're doing. Basketball, when it became serious, it was always at the core, was something I did for fun. No matter what level I got to, be it major college, be it in the NBA, I still always went back to my days playing in the park. So, I was taught you do the best you can, and you play for the right reasons, all the other things will come. So, like I said, even in the most pressurized game, in my mind, in my body, I was just a kid playing the game.
When you got to college, St. John's, and you really became then a legend in New York, what was that experience like, playing with guys like Walter Berry, Lou Carnesecca coaching you? Did the lessons from your family in high school really help and transition you into the college game? I mean, those games were legendary at Patrick Ewing and Georgetown. St. John's top 3 school in the country. I mean, you really took New York City basketball to another level.
Yeah, once again, timing is everything in life. And just like I think all of us here are fortunate to be at the right time with Max. It's the right time, it's gonna explode, and we're all getting in this at the right time. When I was in college basketball had been banned from Madison Square Garden because there was a gambling scandal in the 60s. So it was basically taken away from the Garden. The Big East Conference was formed under some scrutiny. A lot of schools didn't even want to join the Big East at that time. They got this great TV package, and all of a sudden a lot of kids started staying close to home. So all that timing came together. Coach Lou Carnesecca, I had known since 4th grade. I met him when I was 12 years old. I went to his basketball camps. So when I was being recruited as a senior, I visited Duke and Villanova and Louisville, a lot of big schools, and I chose to stay at St. John's, which at the time was really like an extended high school. There was no dorms. It was a commuter school. But to me, I chose St. John's University because of Lou Carnesecca, because I had an incredible trip to Duke, the buildings, and it was just a beautiful place. Had a great weekend. But for some reason, I always went back to Coach Carnesecca, the person. It wasn't about the buildings and the facilities. It was about the person, Lou Carnesecca. I had a great, University of Virginia is an incredible place, beautiful place. And I loved Terry Holland was the coach, and it was just a beautiful. But once again, it was something about Coach Carnesecca. So I chose St. John's because of Coach Carnesecca. And then the 4 years I was there was magical. The Big East exploded. Patrick Hughes was at Georgetown. Ed Pickney was at Villanova. There was incredible coaches, Jim Boeheim, John Thompson. It was just a glorious time for the Big East. They moved the Big East tournament to Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball. And our games with Georgetown were legendary. They became almost like heavyweight fights. They would scalp tickets outside the Garden. They moved our game back to 9 o'clock at night. At that time, too, there was I don't like to use the word hatred because it's a strong word, but there was not a lot of
love.
No, there was a lot of respect for each other, but there was, there was games I remember, and I watch them. Sometimes they come on ESPN Classic, and where there's a fight breaks out, and then no one's even ejected. They're like, just carry on, just stop it and carry on. So yeah, it was a glorious time. It was a wonderful time. Again, the timing of that was just incredible.
Is there any game that you particularly remember from college that stands out?
Yeah, the Georgetown games stick out the most because, again, Georgetown in New York City has a big presence down on Wall Street, and a lot of their alumni are from New York area. So when we played at the Garden, it was very intense. We'd have most of the fans, but they had a strong presence there, and the intensity wasn't just on the court. There was and you've been to the Garden, and I'm sure some people here. There's also a lot of activity up in the stands a lot too. It's not just on the court. So
yeah,
the whole atmosphere was pretty overwhelming. And being from Brooklyn and just playing in Madison Square Garden, it was a dream come true.
What was it like the first time that you stepped on the Garden floor? I mean, that is something that all ball players out of New York want to do.
My first Big East game, the first time we played Georgetown, as a matter of fact, I think I was 0 for 6 from the field and 1 for 4 from the free throw line. And I felt like I had gotten into something I couldn't handle.
Whoa.
And I remember Coach Carnesecca sitting me down and saying the great players always have their next game, they come back. They don't have 2 bad games in a row. That always stuck with me. I remember getting in the gym, working out, trying to put that behind me somehow. It was hard. I was distraught. I think we got the next game we played Rutgers. I had a good game. And that was something always that was put in my head. You put your failures behind you. You learn from them, and you work harder, and then you move on.
Now, what type of work ethic did Coach Carnesecca demand from your teams in those years? Because those Georgetown teams, they were fit. Those guys were working real hard, and they were pressing. So you guys had to be in phenomenal shape.
This was 81 through 85. I was in college, so this was before the NCAA instituted how much time you could practice. So we would practice for 4 or 5 hours easily. And Coach Carnesecca was the type of person, not only did he want you to do what the game plan instructed you to do, he wanted you to understand why you were doing it. So if something did go wrong, you were able to make the next right play, not just be a robot. So he was truly a teacher, and as he was teaching you basketball and discipline and commitment, he was also teaching you life lessons about accountability, being there for your teammate, being loyal. So yeah, he would spend a lot of time with us, and at the time we thought it was repetitious and somewhat boring. But that's a lot of time. That's the only way you get to. We were 18, and between 18 and 21, that's the only thing that's going to really work. And then once again, I thought he did a fabulous job, not only coaching great talent and getting guys to come, but also teaching young men how to conduct themselves later on in life.
So now you've gone through growing up in the streets, Brooklyn, playing some tough games out on the playgrounds, made it through Xaverian High School, started to become a legend in New York. Take St. John's all the way to the Final Four. At what point did you realize, I got a shot to take this to the next level?
Yeah, when I was a sophomore in college, I played on the 1983 Pan American team. Once again, it was a prelim to the Olympics. The guys who were selected for that team were somewhat being considered to play in the 1984 Olympic team. I participated in that team, wound up breaking my foot midway through that trip. Once again, Patrick Ewing was there, Michael Jordan, a host of Wayman Tisdale, a lot of great guys who went on to incredible pro careers. But once again, being around those people, having the great respect for them, but being able to compete on that same level was another confidence builder. So I got to play the 1984 Olympics, which was a dream come. It was incredible. Bobby Knight was our coach. 2 players who were cut, and I heard you talk about the dream team. We can't forget John Stockton and Karl Malone, since we're here in Salt Lake City. Two of my favorite teammates, opponents of all time. 2 of the classiest, incredible Hall of Fame players. And actually, we played a lot of games. I'm not quite sure how it would be constructed. We had some really good games in the Salt Palace here, though.
Yeah.
With the Jazz, yeah. But they were cut from that 1984 team. Incredible.
How in the world do you cut Karl Malone? He's 6'9", 250 pounds. I would no sooner cut him than I would run into a lion's cage.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen now. 1984, that would obviously was a mistake, but great respect for them, and I know they're both incredible guys. But yeah, the Olympics came. So right around then, that's when the NBA scouts start watching, because on that team, we had probably 8 or 9 guys who were in that draft, 1984 draft. So I was right in that group. So it was realistic now that I was going to become an NBA player. Still, you know, when your dream's coming true, it's almost unbelievable. But it's right there. So I played my senior. Back then, too, we stayed in school. Most of us stayed in school 4 years.
Yeah.
Some guys left after junior year, but very rarely did a guy leave after his freshman year. So I went through my senior year, was selected number 7th overall by the Golden State Warriors. And then, wow. All right. And still live in the Bay Area. I love the Bay Area. Love the people there. And really, it's been, like I said, it's been a dream to be able to play basketball for a living. It's turned me on to different people and different friends all over the world, virtually. Got introduced to you, really, because we're from Brooklyn, but somehow there's that sports connection.
So you guys didn't know that I was a Brooklyn legend too, right?
Well, maybe more incredibly, you know, I stayed home and went to St. John's and was an athlete, which there's a lot of great athletes out of the New York City area. But you going to Harvard Law School from Flatbush Chevy is pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible.
Talking about incredible, what was it like in the NBA? You're now at Golden State. All of us in New York are just crying because you're gone from home, long way. Now you're in the NBA. First night, lights go on. What's that like?
It was overwhelming. Once again, it was starting back at the bottom. You had to build yourself back up. And actually, I had a false sense of security / luck. My first night, I hit the game-winning shot, and it was a lucky shot, and I think I got a false sense of security. I think the fans in the Bay Area did. We didn't have a really good team, but and I think we won the game, which was even worse. But my career didn't get off to a quick start. It took me a little while to figure out not only myself, the NBA game, the proper way to live my life. But 4 years into it, I kind of clicked in and got my life situated. I had my routine down, got some new teammates, we had a new coach, and the Warriors became a really exciting team. We never really hit the high note, although we were competing against the Lakers every year, which, you know, I don't know if it would have mattered if, you know, going against Magic and Kareem and Worthy and Scott, and that was a pretty tough task for anybody at that point in time. But once again, the challenges were great, but they're also, when you meet them and get on the other side, it's just the most rewarding feeling. It builds up your sense of, it builds up your confidence, but also a sense of accomplishment.
Now, we always knew that you were a hard worker. I mean, your reputation as a hard-working player was renowned. What was the type of workouts that you did when you were in the NBA? I mean, what did it take for you to be at that level, competing with the greatest athletes in the world?
Well, the hard work, in my mind, was not something I really chose to do. It was something I like to do. I really love playing. So when guys say they go out and work and they're actually going to a gym and playing, I never really looked at it that way as far as work. I was blessed. I was fortunate to be doing this for a living. But the fact of the matter was I wasn't as gifted as a lot of the players I was playing against athletically. So that I had to do those things just to get maybe near an evil playing field. I had to be more fit. I had to be sharp. My skill had to be at a razor-sharp level for me just to even compete with these players. Because really, the NBA, in my humble opinion, has the greatest athletes. They really are. They're tall, they're strong, they're quick, they're powerful. They're really incredible athletes. So I relied on my basketball skill, not my athleticism. So in turn, not only I had to be sharp in all those other areas, I also had to play kind of mind games too to figure out how to negotiate and how to play against these incredible athletes.
Was there any player in particular that you looked at and said, whoa, that's another level?
Every night. Every night, I mean, you go up and down the list when I played in the 80s and 90s, you know, between Jordan, Pippen, Drexler, Worthy, Magic, you know, Bird, Malone, Stockton, all those guys they could do something to shut me down, you know, and specifically speaking, it was the long athletes, because I was more of my whole game was based around being an outside shooter, getting open and getting shots off. That's, you know, if you're a superior athlete, there is a way to shut that down. And if you're not the quickest guy and you're playing against a guy who's taller, longer, and quicker, that's a problem. That's pretty much every night in my case. So, yeah, every night was a challenge, but once again, you know, that's why you have teammates, that's why you have game plans and scouting reports, and it's not all on you. You do what you can as part of that team to make the team successful.
Well, through that hard work, you somehow, you know, tricked everybody into making the original dream team. Now, what was that like? Now you're being touted as one of the 12 best players in the world. I mean, one of the 12 best players.
Again, to me, that's the pinnacle of my career. I didn't win any championships. I went to the finals with the Pacers, had a really successful career, but to be in that group with those incredible players and people successful in all areas of life still to this day, looking back, was the pinnacle of my career. But it was also, once again, to deal with, up until that was 1992, I came in 85, had dealt with some injuries, some personal stuff along the way. So to reach that level at that point in my career, it was a shining moment for me. And, you know, we just recently, last summer, that Dream Team was inducted into the Springfield Hall of Fame. And, yeah. And it was truly an honor to be around those guys again. It was unique because in 92, they called 12 guys, and 12 guys accepted right away. And then 20 years later, every person showed up for that induction, which was pretty incredible because those guys are all over the place. It was just a testament to those guys and to each other, the respect we have for each other. And then we sat around on a stage like this one night and talked and told stories. And you're talking about some of the most dynamic players of all time in the history of the game, between Larry, Magic, Michael, John and Carl, up and down Patrick, up and down the line, the whole team, championships upon championships. And to a man, they said that was their favorite summer they ever spent in basketball. And it wasn't because, you know, we won the games pretty much very easily, but it was the way we won and how we conducted ourselves. And we used to talk about that in the locker room. Okay, we're going to go out and win this game. We are going to do that. But let's do it with style and class. And it wasn't the margin of victory that we were concerned about. It was how we conducted ourselves. And it was really, I thought, because a lot of times when you're in the moment, you don't have the ability to grasp what you're doing. But between David Stern and the NBA, at that time we did. He said, we're over here for the first time as pros in the Olympics. We need to set a great example for the people behind us. And not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And 20 years later, a lot of these kids that are in the league, we have a lot of European players and Chinese players from all over the world. That was the first time for them, because we were in Europe, we were bouncing around, and they could see their dream. They could see it. It wasn't just something they saw on TV, or it wasn't just the jersey they bought. They got to see us. And you know, Pau Gasol from Spain, and Ginobili from Argentina. These players, all of a sudden, it wasn't just soccer. And the NBA wasn't this thing that happened in the States. It could be a dream come true. And because I bounce around enough to see these guys, and a lot of them say that was the first time they really thought about being an NBA. Like you asked me, when was the first time I thought? Something has to be put in your head by somebody. Yeah. And lo and behold, you know, it had a huge impact. But once again, the players on that team, you know, the professionalism, because when you put an all-star team together, the first concern is how many balls you're going to need.
Yeah.
You know, but with the leadership of Larry and Magic, and you know, the incredible, at the time, Michael, Scotty were in the prime of their careers. So they kind of set the tone physically, and we all just fell in line. And we became a team overnight. And that was, I think, what grasped everyone's attention. Not that the big names, of course, is going to get it, but then when you saw this team, this group of all-stars become a team so quickly, that was incredible.
After all these great experiences playing ball around the world, spreading the message of basketball and what a global experience it could be, what is it that has attracted you to become an associate here with Max?
First of all, good people, first and foremost. Anytime, I mean, over the course of my playing career, I was approached so much with different business ventures, and not for any special reason, mostly declined. You know what I mean? And the first, like I said about Coach Carnesecca, the first thing I do is it's got to be about the person you're dealing with, or people in general. Max, after meeting you and Jim, the first thing I did, just this is my little Max story. You know, I sat down, you guys came to San Francisco, we had lunch. Sounded good, but a lot of things sound good. And I said, you know what, let me take it. At that point in time, probably 10 years retired. Like I said earlier, I live in the Bay Area, which just like here is very active, outdoor. I like to swim and I ride my bike and I like to stay fit. I got 4 children of my own. We have busy schedules, my wife and I, between carpooling and soccer, lacrosse, basketball, football. So it's important to be able to not only show up, but actually be there, be attentive and want to be there too as well. So I took Max for, you know, 4 or 5 months, and little by little started feeling a little better physically, you know. The one thing I really appreciate, I sleep much better. I feel like I don't need as much sleep when I'm taking Max. Recently went through a knee surgery. Surprisingly so, the first knee surgery I've ever had, and was kind of bummed out, you know what I mean? My body was not, I wouldn't say breaking down, but I was losing a lot of energy and zest for the thing I love. I love to be active. And I really was getting away from that, kind of almost giving in to aches and pains and just saying I'm getting old. And you know, it wasn't a good feeling. It was really zapping me of who I was, really my core. That's who I am. And then little by little, after taking Max, I found myself at the end of the week saying, you know what, I had a good week. I worked out almost every day, maybe twice a day. I'm not hurting. I had my knee surgery, and over the course of 16 years playing the NBA, I've had different injuries and took too much anti-inflammatories. I don't like taking them. My body doesn't handle them well. So prior to my knee surgery, started loading up a little bit more on Max. And incredibly, 6, 7 days after my knee surgery, with no anti-inflammatories whatsoever, was basically back doing my regular routine. And so I'm just like 5 weeks out now. We took that trip to Detroit.
Yep.
Right, that was 6 days later after my knee, and I thought I wasn't gonna be able to make it. And so my feeling is this. This is why I tell people, take it first, take the product, and it'll sell itself, right? It's gonna do you incredible good for your body and your mind. But for me, the thing that Max has done for me, because I'm not gonna give up. That's not who I am. But the thing I love about it is I want to do it. To me, that's more important than getting through a workout or getting through the day. Waking up and going after the day, that's the difference. And it's the combination of, I do believe it's a combination of feeling better physically, but also sleeping better. That's very important. Sleep is a huge to recover. It's a big part of recovery. Just yesterday, because I'm still in physical therapy, got up, rode my bike for like 16, 17 miles. I went and did my physical therapy. I got on the treadmill and I swam in one day. I knew I was taking today off, but that's, again, 5 weeks out. And it's not, I mean, I could probably do that and get through it, but the fact that I want to do it, it really is a gift. It really is. Because I've always had that, and I started losing it. It's like I said earlier, going to practice, to me, I used to look, a lot of guys don't like practice. I was kind of the guy they used to get upset with, because I would be there early and want to practice, and they're like, we're trying to get out of here, dude. Slow down with all that. But so when I lost that, I started feeling like, I started feeling old, basically. And, 9 months later, I feel grateful that I was introduced to you and this product, and I pass it on to family, friends, associates, after it proved it to me. And that was important, because, we all of us, the number one thing we have is our reputation and our integrity.
That's right.
And so once it worked for me, I feel totally 100% confident to pass it on to the people I love.
So now, you know, Chris, that we've come out with the new product, Max 1.
I got that email yesterday. I'm excited about that.
What do you think about a little demonstration, folks? You're ready to
I'm ready.
Be confident enough to...
Just so my daily routine, and I know everyone kind of differs. I get up every morning before I eat. I don't know, I like to do it right away. I take 9 in the morning, right away, before my Pete's coffee and before my breakfast. And then somewhere during the course of the day, before 4 or 5, I take another between 3 and 6. And that has worked incredibly well for me. And really, it's been a blessing. I feel very fortunate to be associated with Max.
Well, let me tell you, Chris, it's as great of a basketball player as you are, you're an even better person.
Well, thank you.
We are thrilled to have you.
My pleasure.
Thank
you.
You're a real credit to Brooklyn and your whole family. We are blessed.
Well, and like I said earlier, we all are a product of not only where we come from and how we're raised and the integrity and how we live our lives, but any success I've ever had, it's been because of the people around me. And that's, I'm more of a team player, probably because of some of the things I lack, but it's also so much more gratifying when you do it with people and with the right people. And I really do believe, the people at Max, as this thing grows, it's always fun to see, the first person you introduce and to have that thing grow. And it just seems like not only a great product, but when you can pass on, when I talk to ex-players, I said, I want to help you with your health, but then you can also help you build the business. That's pretty incredible. When you can, I used to say, when playing in the NBA, how many times can you do something that you like to do and it's good for you? Most of the things you like to do
aren't so good.
A lot of times they're not that good for you, How many times can you get that combination of something that's going to help you physically and then help you financially? And the key, too, is that don't forget, there's a lot of people who have a lot of fortune. If they don't have their health, they have nothing. You can't use it. You can't enjoy it. Well, let's take some...
All right, let's pop a little pill here. You know, this is not the same as popping the pills in Brooklyn on the street corner.
Here's to Max 1. I feel better already.
That's fast acting. That's Herb Nagasawa right there. Ladies and gentlemen, NBA legend.
Thank you very much.
Legendary human being, Chris Mullin.